The average American will spend over $20,000 this year on digestive aids, probiotics, antacids, and gut health supplements. Yet we are sicker, heavier, and more bloated than any population in human history. Meanwhile, the average Japanese person spends a fraction of that, maintains a gut microbiome so diverse that scientists from the University of Tokyo have identified bacterial strains in Japanese intestines that simply do not exist in Western digestive tracts, and rates of colon cancer, irritable bowel syndrome, and chronic acid reflux in Japan are among the lowest on Earth. This is not about genetics, and it is not about access to some miracle food. It is about 30 daily habits, most of which cost nothing, that rebuild your gut from the inside out. Some of these are so simple they will shock you. Others are so genius you will wonder why no one ever told you. By the end of this countdown, you will have a complete blueprint for digestive health that no probiotic bottle could ever give you. I have tested every single one of these myself, and the changes I saw in my own digestion, my energy, and even my mood were so dramatic that I have never gone back. Let us start at number 30. Number 30. They begin every single morning with a glass of room temperature water, not ice water. This sounds almost too small to matter, my friend, but the mechanism here is deceptively powerful. When you wake up, your digestive system has been in a fasting state for 8 hours, and the mucosal lining of your stomach and intestines is sensitive and cool. Dumping a glass of ice water into that system shocks the blood vessels, constricts circulation to the gut wall, and forces your body to expend energy warming the liquid before digestion can even think about starting. Room temperature water, or even slightly warm water, passes through the stomach lining almost immediately, hydrates the intestinal tract without triggering a stress response, and gently wakes up peristalsis, which is the wave-like muscle contraction that moves food through your digestive system. A 2020 study from the University of Shiga Prefecture examined gastric motility in healthy adults and found that warm water ingestion accelerated gastric emptying significantly more than cold water, meaning your digestive engine turns on faster and smoother. I started this habit 3 years ago after a visit to a friend in Kyoto whose mother, a tiny woman in her 80s with the posture of a dancer and the digestion of a teenager, handed me a cup of warm water the moment I stumbled into her kitchen. I had been suffering from morning bloating for years, that tight, distended feeling that made me want to skip breakfast entirely. Within 4 days of switching to room temperature water first thing in the morning, the bloating had dropped by what felt like 80%. It costs nothing. Try it tomorrow. Number 29. They eat fermented food at every single meal, not as a supplement but as a condiment. Walk into any Japanese home, any convenience store, any school cafeteria, and you will find a small dish of pickled something next to every tray. Tsukimono, which are pickled vegetables like cucumber, daikon radish, eggplant, and cabbage, sit on the table like salt and pepper sit on an American table. These are not the vinegar pickles we know in the West, which are pasteurized and dead on arrival. Traditional Japanese pickles are lacto-fermented in rice bran, miso, or salt, meaning they are teeming with live lactic acid bacteria, the same genus of beneficial microbes that dominate a healthy human gut. A 2019 analysis from the National Institute of Health and Nutrition in Tokyo sampled the microbial content of traditional tsukimono and found concentrations of Lactobacillus brevis and Lactobacillus plantarum in numbers that rival any commercial probiotic capsule, but in a food matrix that protects the bacteria through stomach acid far more effectively than a pill. The Japanese do not treat fermented food as medicine. They treat it as flavor. A bite of pickled radish between mouthfuls of rice and fish, a spoonful of miso soup teeming with Aspergillus oryzae, a drizzle of soy sauce that has been fermenting in cedar barrels for 2 years. Every meal becomes an inoculation event. I started making a simple nukazyuk, which is a rice bran pickle bed, in my own kitchen about 18 months ago. I bury cut vegetables in the bran at night, pull them out in the morning, rinse them, slice them, and eat them with my eggs. My digestion became noticeably quieter, less gurgling, less gas within 2 weeks. Your gut wants live food, not freeze-dried powder in a capsule. Give it what it wants at every meal. Number 28. They practice hara hachibu, the habit of eating until they are 80% full. This is not a diet. This is a phrase spoken before meals. A cultural anchor that children hear from their grandparents from the time they can hold chopsticks. The stomach has stretch receptors that signal the brain when it is full, but there is a critical delay. It takes approximately 20 minutes for the hormone cholecystokinin and the vagus nerve to transmit the fullness signal from a distended stomach to the hypothalamus. If you eat quickly, which most Americans do without even realizing it, you can overshoot your caloric and volumetric needs by 30 or 40% before your brain ever gets the memo. Hara hachibu is a built-in circuit breaker. By intentionally stopping at 80%, you give the signal time to arrive without ever having stretched the stomach beyond its comfortable capacity. The Okinawan centenarians, who have been studied by the Okinawa Centenarian Study for over 4 decades, consistently report practicing hara hachibu, and researchers have noted that their daily caloric intake hovers around 1,800 calories, compared to the American average of over 3,600. The implications for gut health are profound. An overfilled stomach puts pressure on the lower esophageal sphincter, causing acid reflux. Undigested food sitting too long in a distended stomach ferments and produces gas. The pancreas and gallbladder are forced to release enzymes and bile in a frantic surge, rather than a measured rhythm. When I first tried hara hachibu, I realized I had never actually felt what 80% full felt like. I had only ever felt stuffed or starving. It took about a week of putting my chopsticks down between bites, chewing deliberately, and checking in with my stomach before I could reliably sense the signal. Now, when I stop at 80%, I feel light and energized after a meal instead of heavy and drowsy. That post-lunch brain fog that used to ruin my afternoons is gone. Try it at your very next meal. Put your fork down when you first feel the edge of satisfaction, not when the plate is clean, and wait 15 minutes. You will feel the difference immediately. Number 27. They eat natto, the most misunderstood superfood on the planet. I am going to be direct with you, my friend. Natto is fermented soybeans, and it looks like small brown beans covered in a sticky, stringy, almost spiderweb-like goo, and it smells faintly of ammonia and old cheese. Most Westerners who try it once spit it out and never go back. This is a tragedy, because natto contains an enzyme called nattokinase, which is one of the most potent natural fibrinolytic agents ever discovered. Fibrin is a protein involved in blood clotting, and also in the low-grade inflammation that damages the intestinal lining. Nattokinase breaks down excess fibrin, improving microcirculation to the gut wall, which means the cells of your intestinal lining get more oxygen and more nutrients, and can repair themselves faster. Beyond nattokinase, natto is also the richest dietary source of vitamin K2-menoquinone 7, a fat-soluble vitamin that directs calcium out of soft tissues and into bones, and a probiotic powerhouse containing Bacillus subtilis, a spore-forming bacterium that survives stomach acid with near-perfect efficiency and colonizes the gut aggressively. A 2022 study from the Tokyo Medical and Dental University examined the fecal microbiota of regular natto consumers and found significantly higher populations of Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus species, as well as markedly lower levels of inflammatory markers like calprotectin. I forced myself to eat natto every morning for 30 days straight, and I will not pretend I enjoyed the first week. The texture is challenging, the flavor is challenging. But by day 10, something shifted. I started craving it. My digestion became so smooth, so predictable, so free of the sluggish constipation that had plagued me for years, that I now eat it on toast with a little soy sauce and mustard almost every single day. If you can get past the initial shock, your gut will thank you in ways you cannot yet imagine. Number 26. They eat a traditional Japanese breakfast, which is savory, protein-rich, and fermented instead of a sugar bomb. The standard American breakfast is a metabolic grenade. Cereal, which is processed grain coated in sugar, soaked in milk that is increasingly difficult for adult stomachs to digest. Pancakes, which are refined flour drenched in corn syrup masquerading as maple flavor. Muffins, which are cake with a health halo. The standard Japanese breakfast is grilled fish, a small bowl of rice, miso soup, a rolled omelet called temagaki, a few pieces of tsukimono, and a small portion of natto. That plate provides complete protein with all essential amino acids, omega-3 fatty acids from the fish, live probiotics from the miso and pickles, and slow-digesting complex carbohydrates from the rice. There is no sugar spike, there is no insulin crash. The gut receives a gentle, nutrient-dense load that it can process efficiently. And the fermentation byproducts from the miso and pickles feed the beneficial bacteria that have been multiplying in your colon overnight. A 2018 dietary survey from the Japanese Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare found that individuals who ate a traditional breakfast had measurably higher gut microbial diversity than those who ate a Western-style breakfast or skipped breakfast entirely. When I switched from oatmeal and fruit to a Japanese breakfast for 2 weeks, the first thing I noticed was that I was not hungry again at 10:30 in the morning. The second thing I noticed was that my stomach felt flat and calm all day. No gurgling, no sudden urgency, just a quiet, efficient digestive process that I barely noticed. You do not have to eat fish for breakfast every day to get this benefit. The principle is savory protein, fermented vegetables, and no refined sugar first thing in the morning. Try it for 3 days and see what your gut tells you. Number 25. They drink green tea all day long, but specifically between meals, not with meals. Green tea, particularly sencha and matcha, is packed with catechins, a class of polyphenol that acts as a prebiotic. Prebiotics are not bacteria themselves. They are fiber compounds that feed the beneficial bacteria already living in your colon. Catechins selectively stimulate the growth of bifidobacterium and lactobacillus, while simultaneously inhibiting the growth of pathogenic bacteria like Clostridium perfringens. A 2021 study from the University of Shizuoka demonstrated that participants who drank 3 cups of sencha daily for 12 weeks showed a significant increase in gut microbial diversity and a measurable decrease in the firmicutes to bacteroidetes ratio, which is a marker associated with leanness and metabolic health. But the timing matters. Green tea contains tannins, which can bind to minerals like iron and zinc and prevent their absorption if consumed alongside food. The Japanese habit is to drink tea between meals, mid-morning and mid-afternoon, when the stomach is empty enough for the catechins to pass into the intestines rapidly and do their prebiotic work without interfering with nutrient uptake. I started keeping a thermos of warm sencha on my desk and sipping it slowly between breakfast and lunch, then again between lunch and dinner. Within a week, my digestion felt more regulated, less reactive. The tea also has a mild thermogenic effect, gently raising metabolic rate, and the ritual of pausing to pour and sip became a calming anchor in my workday. Your gut is not just a digestion machine. It is intimately connected to your nervous system through the vagus nerve. and the act of slowing down to drink tea between meals signals safety to your entire digestive tract. Green tea between meals every day. Number 24. They eat a shocking variety of vegetables, often 30 or more different types per week. The average American eats the same 5 to 7 vegetables on repeat. Potatoes mostly as fries, tomatoes mostly as sauce, lettuce mostly as iceberg. Onions, corn, carrots, that is it. The Japanese Dietary Guidelines, published by the Ministry of Health, recommend consuming at least 30 different food items per day when you count vegetables. Grains, proteins, and condiments. The vegetable rotation alone in a typical Japanese household includes daikon radish, Japanese sweet potato, burdock root, lotus root, bamboo shoots, shiso leaves, mizuna greens, kametsuna, kabocha squash, eggplant, cucumber, napa cabbage, green onions, shiitake mushrooms, enoki mushrooms, maitake mushrooms, eringi mushrooms, seaweed varieties like wakame, kombu, nari, and hajiki, and a dozen others that rotate seasonally. Why does this matter for your gut? Because each vegetable contains a unique profile of soluble and insoluble fibers, polyphenols, and resistant starches, and each of these compounds feeds a different species of beneficial bacteria. A monoculture diet produces a monoculture gut. A diverse diet produces a diverse gut. And gut microbial diversity is the single most consistent marker of digestive health across every population study ever conducted. A landmark 2023 analysis from the RIKEN Center for Integrative Medical Sciences in Yokohama examined the gut microbiomes of over 5,000 Japanese adults and found that dietary variety, not total fiber intake, was the strongest predictor of microbial richness. When I started deliberately rotating my vegetables, buying one new variety each week that I had never cooked before, my digestion transformed. The bloating that used to hit me at 4 in the afternoon disappeared. My bowel movements became so regular I could set a clock by them. Go to an Asian grocery store this weekend and buy one vegetable you have never eaten. Just one. Your gut bacteria are starving for variety, and they will reward you the moment you feed them something new. Number 23. They eat seaweed daily, which feeds a unique group of gut bacteria that most Westerners have never cultivated. The human gut cannot digest the complex polysaccharides found in seaweed, things like agar, carrageenan, and alginate. We lack the enzymes, but certain marine bacteria, specifically species of bacteroids that colonize the human gut, possess genes that code for porphyrinases and agarases, enzymes that break down these seaweed fibers into short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. Butyrate is the primary fuel source for the cells lining your colon, the colonocytes. Without butyrate, your gut lining thins, becomes permeable, and allows bacterial endotoxins to leak into your bloodstream, a condition known as metabolic endotoxemia that drives systemic inflammation. The Japanese have been eating seaweed for millennia, and their gut bacteria have adapted. A 2010 study published in the journal Nature, led by researchers from the University of Pierre and Marie Curie, discovered that the gut bacterium Bacteroides plebeius in Japanese individuals had acquired a gene from a marine bacterium called Zobalia galactanivorans that allows it to digest nari, the seaweed used in sushi. This gene was absent in North American gut samples. What this means is that you can cultivate these bacteria by consistently eating seaweed, even if you do not have them right now. Wakame in your miso soup, nari wrapped around your rice, kombu simmered in your broth, hajiki tossed with sesame oil. I started adding a strip of kombu to every pot of soup and stock I made, and I began snacking on seasoned nari sheets instead of chips. The effect on my digestion was subtle at first, then unmistakable: less gas, less urgency, a sense of calm in my gut that I had not felt in years. Seaweed is the forgotten prebiotic, and it is sitting on the shelf of your grocery store right now. Number 22. They eat white rice as a staple, but they eat it cold or reheated, not freshly steamed and piping hot. This is one of the most counterintuitive gut health hacks I have ever encountered, and it changed the way I think about carbohydrates entirely. When you cook rice and then cool it, either in the refrigerator or at room temperature, the starch undergoes a process called retrogradation. The starch molecules realign into a crystalline structure that resists digestion in the small intestine. This is called resistant starch type 3, and it passes through your stomach and small intestine completely intact until it reaches your colon, where your gut bacteria ferment it into butyrate. Freshly steamed white rice is a simple carbohydrate that spikes blood sugar and feeds very few gut bacteria. Cold or reheated rice delivers up to 60% more resistant starch and a significantly lower glycemic response. The Japanese eat rice at almost every meal, but they also eat onigiri, which are rice balls that have been cooled, and bento boxes, where the rice has been sitting at room temperature for hours, and next day rice reheated for breakfast. They are consuming resistant starch without even thinking about it. A 2015 study from the American Chemical Society tested the resistant starch content of freshly cooked rice versus rice that had been cooled for 12 hours, and then reheated, and found that the reheated rice contained 2.5 times more resistant starch than the fresh rice. When I started cooking a batch of rice on Sunday, cooling it completely, and then reheating portions throughout the week, my digestion changed within days. My bowel movements became more substantial, more complete. The mid-afternoon energy crashes I used to get after a rice bowl disappeared. The same principle applies to potatoes and pasta. Cook, cool, reheat. Your gut bacteria will feast. Number 21. They eat miso soup, but they never boil the miso. Miso is a fermented paste made from soybeans, rice or barley, salt, and koji mold, Aspergillus oryzae. That koji mold is the same organism used to make sake and soy sauce, and it is responsible for breaking down the proteins and carbohydrates in the soybeans into amino acids and simple sugars that give miso its deep umami flavor. But more importantly, miso is alive. It contains millions of live bacteria and enzymes that are heat sensitive. When you drop miso into boiling water and let it bubble, you kill those bacteria instantly. You turn a probiotic powerhouse into salty flavoring. The Japanese method is to bring the dashi broth to a simmer. Add the solid ingredients like tofu and wakame. Then remove the pot from the heat entirely. Let it cool for 30 seconds. And only then swirl in the miso paste until it dissolves. The soup is served warm but never boiled. This preserves the lactobacillus and the koji enzymes intact. A 2019 study from the Hiroshima University Graduate School of Biosphere Science found that miso soup prepared without boiling retained viable bacterial counts in the millions per milliliter, while boiled miso soup retained almost none. I started making miso soup the traditional way about 2 years ago, using a simple dashi made from kombu and bonito flakes, and adding the miso off the heat. The effect on my digestion was immediate and profound. My stomach felt settled and warm after eating, not bloated or acidic. Miso is cheap. It lasts forever in the refrigerator. And a bowl of properly prepared miso soup is one of the most gut-healing foods you can put in your body. Just never boil it. Number 20. They consume koji in multiple forms, not just miso. And koji is arguably the most important gut health ingredient most Westerners have never heard of. Aspergillus oryzae, the koji mold, has been cultivated in Japan for over 1,000 years. It is used to make miso, soy sauce, sake, mirin, rice vinegar, and a fermented drink called amazake. When koji grows on steamed rice or barley, it produces over 50 different enzymes, including proteases that break down protein, amylases that break down carbohydrates, and lipases that break down fats. When you consume koji-fermented foods, you are essentially consuming a digestive aid that begins breaking down your food before your own enzymes even get to work. But the gut health benefits go deeper. Koji fermentation produces unique oligosaccharides that act as potent prebiotics, specifically stimulating bifidobacterium populations. A 2021 study from the University of Tokyo analyzed the prebiotic activity of koji-derived oligosaccharides and found that they increased bifidobacterium counts in vitro by over 300% compared to a control. Amazake, which is a sweet, creamy, non-alcoholic drink made by fermenting rice with koji, is one of the most gut-friendly beverages on Earth. It tastes like sweet rice pudding in liquid form, and it is packed with enzymes, B vitamins, and prebiotic fibers. I started drinking a small cup of Amazake in the afternoon about 6 months ago, and I noticed that my digestion after dinner, which had always been a little sluggish, became noticeably smoother. My stomach emptied faster, I felt lighter. If you can find Amazake or koji rice at an Asian market, try incorporating it into your week. Your gut will digest everything else you eat more efficiently. Number 19. They eat fish that is rich in omega-3 fatty acids, and they eat it regularly, not as a supplement. Mackerel, sardines, salmon, horse mackerel, and tuna are staples of the Japanese diet, and the omega-3 fatty acids they contain, specifically eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid, are powerful modulators of gut inflammation. The intestinal lining is a single layer of epithelial cells held together by tight junction proteins. When those tight junctions become loose, a condition often called leaky gut, bacterial fragments and undigested food particles cross into the bloodstream and trigger systemic immune activation. Omega-3 fatty acids strengthen those tight junctions. They incorporate into the cell membranes of the intestinal epithelium and increase the production of anti-inflammatory cytokines, while suppressing pro-inflammatory pathways like nuclear factor kappa B. A 2020 study from the Kyoto Prefectural University of Medicine examined the effect of regular fish consumption on intestinal permeability and found that individuals who ate fatty fish at least 4 times per week had significantly lower serum zonulin levels, which is a marker of intestinal permeability, compared to those who ate fish less than once per week. The Japanese do not take fish oil pills. They eat the whole fish, which provides the omega-3s in their natural phospholipid form, along with selenium, vitamin D, and complete protein. The synergy matters. I started eating grilled mackerel twice a week, and sardines from a tin on days when I was too busy to cook. Within a month, the low-grade digestive discomfort that I had accepted as normal for years simply faded. No more random cramping. No more unpredictable reactions to foods. Your gut lining is made of fat and protein, and it needs the right fats to stay sealed and strong. Number 18. They eat small portions on small plates, a visual trick that signals satisfaction to the brain long before the stomach is full. Walk into a Japanese home kitchen and open the cabinets. You will find an array of small dishes, bowls, and plates, each designed for a specific purpose. A tiny rectangular plate for grilled fish, a small ceramic bowl for rice, a shallow dish for pickles, a lidded bowl for miso soup, a dipping saucer for soy sauce. The meal is served in a constellation of small vessels spread across the table, and the visual abundance of many dishes, even though each contains only a small portion, sends a powerful signal to the brain that you are eating a large, satisfying meal. This is called the Delboeuf illusion in psychology. The same amount of food looks larger on a small plate than on a large plate, and the brain registers that visual fullness as physical fullness. A 2012 study from the Cornell Food and Brand Lab demonstrated that people who ate from smaller plates consumed up to 30% fewer calories, without reporting any difference in satiety. The Japanese have been doing this for centuries, not because they studied the Delboeuf illusion, but because the aesthetic of many small dishes is deeply embedded in the culture. When I replaced my large dinner plates with smaller Japanese-style dishes, I was shocked by how full I felt after eating what was objectively less food. My stomach no longer felt stretched and heavy after dinner. My acid reflux, which had been a nightly occurrence for years, disappeared within a week. Go to a thrift store and buy smaller plates. It costs $5 and it will change your digestion forever. Number 17. They eat ginger, both pickled and fresh, as a digestive catalyst. Gari, the pale pink pickled ginger served alongside sushi, is not just a palate cleanser. Ginger contains a compound called gingerol, which accelerates gastric emptying, meaning it helps move food from your stomach into your small intestine faster. Slow gastric emptying is a major cause of bloating, acid reflux, and that heavy, brick-in-the-stomach feeling that lingers for hours after a meal. Gingerol stimulates the migrating motor complex, the rhythmic wave of contractions that sweeps through your stomach and small intestine between meals and after eating, pushing contents forward. A 2018 meta-analysis from the Taiwan University College of Medicine reviewed over 100 studies on ginger and digestion, and concluded that ginger significantly accelerated gastric emptying and reduced dyspepsia symptoms compared to placebo. The Japanese eat pickled ginger with sushi, but they also grate fresh ginger into soups, simmer it in broths, steep it in tea, and serve it as a condiment called oroshi shoga, which is simply grated raw ginger root. I started grating a teaspoon of fresh ginger into a cup of hot water and drinking it after my largest meal of the day. Within 3 days, the post-meal heaviness I had experienced for years was noticeably reduced. My stomach felt empty and light within an hour of eating, not 3 or 4 hours. Ginger is cheap. It keeps for weeks in the refrigerator and it works. Try it after your next heavy meal. Number 16. They eat konjac, a zero-calorie, fiber-rich jelly that feeds gut bacteria and sweeps the colon clean. Konjac, also called konnyaku, is made from the corm of the konjac plant, and it is composed almost entirely of glucomannan, a water-soluble dietary fiber that absorbs up to 50 times its weight in water. When you eat konjac, it forms a thick, viscous gel in your stomach and intestines that slows the absorption of carbohydrates, binds to bile acids and cholesterol, and provides an enormous substrate for bacterial fermentation in the colon. The Japanese eat konjac in many forms. It appears as shirataki noodles, which are translucent, gelatinous noodles with almost no calories. It appears as a firm gray block called ita konnyaku, which is sliced and simmered in oden, a winter hot pot dish. It appears as small, chewy pieces in nemono, a simmered vegetable dish. A 2020 study from the Kagawa Nutrition University examined the effect of konjac glucomannan on gut microbiota and found that daily consumption significantly increased bifidobacterium populations and fecal short-chain fatty acid concentrations, while also improving bowel movement frequency and consistency. When I first tried shirataki noodles, I expected them to be unpleasant, but rinsed well and pan-fried until dry, they take on the flavor of whatever sauce you add and provide a chewy, satisfying texture. More importantly, my digestion felt cleaner, more complete the next day. Konjac is a broom for your colon, gently sweeping out stagnant waste and feeding the bacteria that keep your gut lining healthy. Look for shirataki noodles in the refrigerated section of your grocery store. Number 15. They drink mujicha barley tea, which is caffeine-free, mineral-rich, and surprisingly gut-soothing. Mujicha is made by roasting unhulled barley until it is deeply browned and fragrant, then steeping it in hot or cold water. It has a nutty, toasty flavor that is deeply comforting, and it contains no caffeine, which makes it the default beverage in Japanese households throughout the day. Served cold in summer and hot in winter. The gut health benefits are multiple. First, roasted barley contains soluble fiber that leaches into the water during steeping, providing a mild prebiotic effect. Second, barley is rich in the mineral selenium, which is essential for the production of glutathione peroxidase, one of the body's most important antioxidant enzymes that protects the gut lining from oxidative damage. Third, mujicha contains pyrazines, the aromatic compounds responsible for the roasted flavor, which have been shown in laboratory studies to relax smooth muscle tissue. A relaxed gut is a gut that does not cramp, spasm, or generate the kind of urgent, painful bowel movements that characterize irritable bowel syndrome. A 2017 study from the Nara Women's University examined the effect of mujicha on stress-induced gastric motility in animal models and found that it significantly reduced abnormal contractions. I started drinking mujicha in the evening instead of herbal tea about a year ago, and I noticed within days that my stomach felt calmer before bed. No more low-grade churning. No more waking up with a tight, anxious gut. You can find mujicha tea bags at any Asian grocery store or online, and a box costs less than $5. Number 14. They practice in emuri, the art of napping in public, and this has direct consequences for your gut. Inemuri, which literally means being present while asleep, is the Japanese habit of taking short naps on trains, in offices, in parks, and in cafes. It is not seen as laziness. It is seen as evidence of hard work and dedication. But beyond the cultural meaning, the physiological impact of a short daytime nap on digestion is remarkable. The gut and the brain are connected by the vagus nerve, a bidirectional superhighway that carries signals in both directions. When you are sleep-deprived, which most Americans are chronically, the vagus nerve shifts into a sympathetic fight-or-flight dominant state. Digestion slows. Blood flow is diverted away from the intestines. The migrating motor complex becomes sluggish. A single 20-minute nap shifts the autonomic nervous system back into parasympathetic, rest and digest dominance. A 2019 study from the University of Tokyo examined heart rate variability, which is a measure of autonomic balance before and after a 20-minute nap, and found a significant shift toward parasympathetic activity that persisted for over 2 hours after waking. When your nervous system is in parasympathetic mode, your gut receives more blood flow, enzyme secretion increases, peristalsis becomes more rhythmic, and the entire digestive process becomes more efficient. I started taking a 15-minute nap after lunch whenever my schedule allows, and the difference in my afternoon digestion is night and day. No more bloating, no more that heavy food just sitting there sensation. Your gut needs rest, not just from food but from stress. Give it 20 minutes of quiet in the middle of the day. Number 13. They eat umeboshi, the salted pickled plum that is arguably the most concentrated digestive aid in the Japanese pantry. Umeboshi are made by pickling ume plums in salt, then drying them in the sun, and sometimes aging them for years. The result is a small, wrinkled, intensely sour and salty fruit that looks unassuming, but contains a cocktail of organic acids including citric acid, malic acid, and succinic acid. These acids stimulate the production of saliva, gastric acid, and digestive enzymes before food even enters the stomach. A single umeboshi eaten at the beginning of a meal primes the entire digestive cascade. But beyond acid stimulation, umeboshi also contains a compound called mumifuril, which is formed during the heating and aging process, and which has been shown in laboratory studies to improve blood fluidity and microcirculation. Better blood flow to the gut means better nutrient absorption and faster repair of the intestinal lining. A 2021 study from the Wakayama Prefectural Medical University, located in the heart of Japan's ume-growing region, found that daily consumption of umeboshi reduced gastric discomfort and improved bowel regularity in patients with mild constipation. I keep a jar of umeboshi in my refrigerator at all times. When my stomach feels off, I eat one small plum with a bowl of rice. Or I dissolve a bit of the paste in hot water and drink it as a tea. The effect is almost immediate. A warm sensation spreads through my stomach, and within minutes the discomfort fades. Umeboshi is not subtle. It is one of the most intense flavors you will ever taste. But your gut will thank you. Number 12. They eat with chopsticks, which forces a slower eating pace and smaller bites. This sounds trivial, but the mechanical act of eating with chopsticks changes the entire tempo of a meal. A fork can scoop, stab, and shovel. A spoon can load and deliver large volumes of food in a single motion. Chopsticks pick up one small piece at a time. You cannot shovel rice into your mouth with chopsticks. You must lift a small clump, bring it to your mouth, and repeat. This built-in speed governor gives your stomach time to signal your brain, gives your saliva time to mix with the food and begin carbohydrate digestion, and gives your jaw muscles a workout that chewing with a fork does not provide. The chewing itself is critical. Mastication breaks food into smaller particles, increasing the surface area available for digestive enzymes. And it also signals the stomach to begin producing acid in anticipation. A 2014 study published in the Journal of Clinical Biochemistry and Nutrition found that eating with chopsticks reduced the eating rate by an average of 30% compared to eating with a fork or spoon, and that this slower pace was associated with lower post-meal blood glucose levels. When I first started eating with chopsticks at every meal, I was clumsy and slow, and I ate less without trying because the effort of picking up each bite made me more conscious of how much I was consuming. Over time, the pace became natural, and my digestion improved noticeably. Less gas, less bloating, less of that overstuffed feeling that used to hit me after dinner. You do not need to be an expert. Even clumsy chopstick use slows you down. Buy a pair for $3 and use them for every meal this week. Number 11. They eat seasonally, which forces a natural rotation of foods that prevents the gut from becoming hypersensitive. The modern Western diet is seasonless. Strawberries in January, tomatoes in December, avocados every single day of the year. This consistency sounds like a good thing, but for the gut, it can be a problem. When you eat the same foods day after day, month after month, your immune system, much of which resides in the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, can begin to develop low-grade sensitivities. The constant exposure to the same food proteins can trigger immunoglobulin G responses, which are delayed hypersensitivity reactions that cause bloating, fatigue, and brain fog hours or even days after eating. The Japanese diet shifts dramatically with the seasons. Spring brings tegnoko, bamboo shoots, and fresh peas. Summer brings cucumbers, eggplants, and some noodles eaten cold. Autumn brings matsutake mushrooms, chestnuts, and grilled sari. Winter brings hot pots, root vegetables, and citrus. This natural rotation gives the gut a break from any single food group for months at a time, which prevents the immune system from becoming sensitized. A 2022 study from the University of Nagasaki examined dietary variety across seasons in a cohort of elderly Japanese adults and found that seasonal eating was associated with greater gut microbial diversity and lower levels of food-specific IgG antibodies. I started eating seasonally by shopping at my local farmer's market and buying whatever was fresh that week. I stopped buying tomatoes in winter and berries in spring. My digestion became more resilient, less reactive. Foods that had previously bothered me no longer did. Your gut needs variety not just within a meal, but across the year. Eat what is growing now, not what has been flown in from the other side of the world. Number 10. They eat raw fish, which provides digestive enzymes that are destroyed by cooking. Sashimi, the art of eating raw fish sliced and served without rice, is not just a culinary preference. It is a delivery system for heat-sensitive enzymes that aid digestion. Raw fish contains proteases, lipases, and amylases that begin breaking down protein, fat, and carbohydrates the moment the fish hits your stomach. These enzymes are denatured and inactivated at cooking temperatures above 118 degrees Fahrenheit. When you eat cooked fish, your body must supply all the enzymes. When you eat raw fish, the fish supplies some of its own, reducing the digestive burden on your pancreas and stomach lining. Raw fish is also easier to digest mechanically because the muscle fibers have not been tightened and toughened by heat. A 2016 study from the Hokkaido University compared gastric emptying time for cooked salmon versus raw salmon and found that raw salmon emptied from the stomach significantly faster. The Japanese also pair raw fish with wasabi and soy sauce. Wasabi contains isothiocyanates that have antibacterial properties, reducing the risk of foodborne illness from raw fish. And soy sauce contributes enzymes from its own fermentation process. I started eating sashimi-grade salmon at home about once a week, and I noticed that I felt lighter after eating it than after eating cooked fish. No heavy, lingering fullness, just clean, efficient digestion. If you are nervous about raw fish, start with sashimi from a reputable Japanese restaurant. Your gut will digest it with remarkable ease. Number 9. They eat daikon radish, specifically grated raw daikon called daikon oroshi, as a digestive enzyme supplement that costs pennies. Daikon radish is a long, white root vegetable that looks like an oversized white carrot, and it contains an enzyme called diastase, which is a type of amylase that breaks down complex carbohydrates into simple sugars. It also contains myrosinase, an enzyme that converts glucosinolates into isothiocyanates, which have anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties. When you grate raw daikon, you rupture the cell walls and release these enzymes in concentrated form. A small mound of daikon oroshi served alongside grilled fish or tempura is not just a garnish. It is a digestive aid that begins breaking down the starches and fats in the meal before your own enzymes even get to work. A 2019 study from the Kagoshima University analyzed the enzyme activity of fresh daikon oroshi and found significant amylase, protease, and lipase activity that remained stable for up to 30 minutes after grating. I started grating daikon radish over my meals about a year ago, and the effect on heavy, fatty meals was undeniable. A meal that would normally sit in my stomach for hours, like grilled mackerel or a rich pork dish, felt lighter and digested faster when I added daikon oroshi. The radish itself is cheap, keeps for weeks in the refrigerator, and takes 30 seconds to grate. Try it over your next grilled meat or fish. Number 8. They eat a soup or broth at almost every meal, which hydrates the digestive tract and provides easily absorbable nutrients. Miso soup at breakfast, a clear dashi-based soup with lunch. A hot pot or noodle soup for dinner. The Japanese consume liquid with their food in a way that Westerners, who typically drink cold beverages alongside solid food, do not. This matters for digestion because the stomach needs moisture to churn food into chyme, the semi-liquid paste that passes into the small intestine. When you eat a dry meal and wash it down with cold water, you are diluting your gastric acid and cooling the stomach at the same time. When you eat a soup, the liquid is already integrated with the nutrients, and the warmth of the broth supports enzymatic activity. Hot liquids also stimulate blood flow to the stomach lining and relax the smooth muscle of the digestive tract. A 2020 study from the University of Tokushima found that consuming a warm soup before a meal increased gastric blood flow and accelerated the cephalic phase of digestion, which is the anticipatory release of enzymes, an acid triggered by the sight and smell of food. I started making a simple miso soup or a clear vegetable broth to have with my dinner every night, and my digestion became noticeably more comfortable. No more that dry, stuck feeling after a meal. My stomach felt warm and active, not sluggish and heavy. You do not need an elaborate recipe. A cup of warm broth with a pinch of salt and a few green onions will do more for your digestion than a cold glass of water ever could. Number 7. They eat yatsu, the afternoon snack, but it is typically a small, nutrient-dense food rather than a processed bar. The word yatsu originally referred to the mid-afternoon break around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and the snack that accompanied it. In modern Japan, yatsu might be a rice ball wrapped in nari, a small sweet potato, a piece of fruit, a cup of amazake, or a few senbei rice crackers. It is almost never a protein bar engineered in a factory, a bag of chips, or a candy bar. The difference for gut health is significant. Processed snacks are loaded with emulsifiers, preservatives, and refined seed oils that have been shown in laboratory studies to thin the mucus layer of the gut and promote inflammation. A 2021 study from the University of Tsukuba examined the effect of common food emulsifiers on intestinal mucus thickness in animal models and found that polysorbate 80 and carboxymethylcellulose, two of the most common additives in Western snack foods, significantly reduced mucus barrier integrity. The Japanese afternoon snack, by contrast, provides fiber, resistant starch, and polyphenols that feed gut bacteria. When I switched my afternoon snack from a granola bar to a small roasted sweet potato or a rice ball, my digestion in the late afternoon, which had always been a time of bloating and discomfort, improved dramatically. My energy stayed stable, my stomach stayed flat. Your gut does not want processed food between meals. It wants real food in small amounts. Number 6. They walk after meals, not intensely but gently and consistently. The Japanese do not have a culture of intense gym workouts. What they have is a culture of walking, walking to the train station, walking to the grocery store, walking after dinner through the neighborhood. A gentle walk after a meal accelerates gastric emptying by using gravity and the gentle jostling of movement to help food move through the stomach and into the small intestine. It also lowers post-meal blood glucose by increasing glucose uptake into the muscles without requiring insulin. A 2016 study from the Shinshu University Graduate School of Medicine examined the effect of post-meal walking on gastric emptying and found that even 10 minutes of slow walking significantly accelerated the movement of food from the stomach compared to sitting or lying down after a meal. The Japanese do this without thinking. After dinner, families stroll through the park. After lunch, office workers walk back to their buildings. I started taking a 15-minute walk after dinner every night about 2 years ago, and the effect on my digestion was immediate. No more acid reflux when I lay down to sleep. No more morning bloating. My stomach felt empty and ready for sleep within 2 hours of eating. You do not need to power walk. A gentle, 10-minute stroll after your largest meal will do more for your gut than any supplement. Number 5. They eat fermented soy in forms beyond miso and natto, specifically tempeh and soy sauce that is traditionally brewed. Traditional Japanese soy sauce, called shoyu, is made by fermenting soybeans and wheat with koji mold and salt, then aging the mixture in cedar barrels for months or years. This long fermentation produces not just flavor, but a complex array of enzymes, peptides, and melanoidins, which are antioxidant compounds formed during the Maillard reaction. These melanoidins survive digestion and reach the colon, where they act as prebiotic fiber and also bind to potentially harmful compounds, facilitating their excretion. A 2018 study from the Kikkoman Research Laboratory, which has been studying soy sauce fermentation for decades, found that the melanoidins in traditionally brewed soy sauce significantly increased bifidobacterium populations in vitro. The soy sauce most Americans buy, however, is chemically hydrolyzed in a matter of days using hydrochloric acid, not fermented. It contains no live enzymes, no melanoidins, and no prebiotic activity. When I switched to traditionally brewed Japanese soy sauce, which costs maybe $3 more per bottle, I noticed a difference in how my body responded to meals seasoned with it. Less thirst, less bloating, and a deeper, more complex flavor that meant I used less. Read the label on your soy sauce. If the ingredients list anything other than soybeans, wheat, salt, and water, and if it does not say traditionally brewed or naturally fermented, you are buying a chemical extract, not a fermented food. Your gut knows the difference. Number 4. They eat a plant-based breakfast, lunch, and dinner that is heavy on vegetables. But they do not call themselves plant-based or make it an identity. The Japanese diet is not vegetarian. Fish, meat, and eggs are eaten regularly. But the proportion of the plate occupied by animal protein is small, and the proportion occupied by vegetables, seaweed, pickles, and grains is large. This matters for gut health because animal protein, particularly red meat, contains carnitine and choline, which certain gut bacteria convert into trimethylamine, which the liver then converts into trimethylamine N-oxide, a compound associated with cardiovascular disease and gut inflammation. When the diet is rich in plant fiber, the gut bacteria that produce trimethylamine are suppressed, and the bacteria that produce butyrate are promoted. A 2020 study from the National Cancer Center in Tokyo examined dietary patterns and gut microbiota in over 2,000 Japanese adults and found that those who ate a diet high in vegetables and moderate in animal protein had significantly higher gut microbial diversity and lower levels of inflammatory markers than those who ate a diet high in animal protein and low in vegetables. The Japanese do not eliminate meat, they surround it with plants. A piece of grilled fish sits next to pickled vegetables, a bowl of miso soup, a serving of rice, and a small salad. The animal protein is a guest at the table, not the centerpiece. When I shifted my plate proportions to match this pattern, filling half my plate with vegetables, a quarter with rice, and a quarter with protein, my digestion transformed again. I had already improved it, but this shift took me to a new level of comfort and regularity. You do not need to give up meat. Just make it the smallest thing on your plate. Number 3. They chew their food with intention, often putting chopsticks down between bites to extend the meal. This is not just about pace. It is about the mechanical and chemical breakdown of food that can only happen in the mouth. Saliva contains alpha amylase, which begins breaking down starches. It contains lingual lipase, which begins breaking down fats. It contains lysozyme, which kills bacteria. When you chew thoroughly, you mix food with these enzymes for a longer period, reducing the workload on your stomach and pancreas. You also break food into smaller particles, which increases the surface area available for digestive enzymes in the small intestine. A 2017 study from the Waseda University in Tokyo examined the effect of chewing frequency on post-meal energy expenditure and found that subjects who chewed each bite 40 times had significantly higher diet-induced thermogenesis and better glucose control than those who chewed each bite 15 times. The Japanese do not count chews. They eat slowly, they put their chopsticks down, they engage in conversation, and the meal stretches out over 30 or 40 minutes instead of 10. I started consciously chewing more about 18 months ago, aiming to make each mouthful liquid before swallowing. The effect on my digestion, was one of the most dramatic of any habit on this list. My stomach felt lighter. I ate less without trying. The gas and bloating that had been a daily occurrence for years simply stopped. Chewing is the only part of digestion you control consciously. Do not outsource it to your stomach. Number 2. They consume collagen-rich foods like fish skin, chicken cartilage, and pork bone broth, which provide the amino acids your gut lining needs to repair itself. The intestinal epithelium is made of protein, and the most abundant amino acids in the gut lining are glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline, which are exactly the amino acids found in collagen. When you consume collagen-rich foods, you provide the raw materials your body needs to rebuild the tight junctions between intestinal cells and maintain the thickness of the gut wall. The Japanese consume collagen without thinking about it. Fish skin is eaten, not discarded. Chicken yakitori skewers include cartilage, heart, and skin. Tonkatsu ramen broth is made by boiling pork bones for hours until the collagen dissolves into the liquid, creating a rich, creamy texture. A 2021 study from the Osaka City University examined the effect of collagen peptide supplementation on intestinal barrier function and found that collagen peptides significantly reduced intestinal permeability in subjects with mild gut inflammation. I started making bone broth at home and drinking a cup each morning about a year ago. I also stopped trimming the skin off my fish and started eating the cartilage on chicken wings. My digestion became more resilient. Foods that had previously triggered discomfort no longer did. Your gut lining is rebuilt every 3 to 5 days. Give it the materials it needs to rebuild strong. Number 1. The most important Japanese gut health habit, the one that underlies all the others, is that they treat eating as a sacred act, not as a refueling stop. In Japan, meals begin with itadakimasu, a phrase that means I humbly receive, and end with gachasao-sama desu hita, a phrase that means thank you for the feast. These are not empty words. They are a ritual that frames eating as an act of gratitude and presence. When you sit down to eat with presence, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Your mouth waters, your stomach produces acid, your pancreas prepares enzymes. Your entire digestive system shifts into receiving mode. When you eat while driving, while scrolling your phone, while standing over the kitchen counter, your sympathetic nervous system remains dominant and digestion is suppressed. Blood flow is diverted away from your gut. Enzyme secretion drops. Peristalsis slows. A 2019 study from the Kyushu University examined the effect of mindful eating on digestive function and found that subjects who ate in a relaxed, present state had significantly better gastric accommodation, which is the stomach's ability to expand to receive food, and faster gastric emptying than those who ate while distracted. This is the habit that makes all the other habits work. You can eat natto, drink green tea, chew 40 times and practice hara hachibu, but if you are eating in a state of stress, your gut will not absorb the benefits. I started saying a quiet thank you before my meals, putting my phone in another room, and eating in silence or with calm conversation. My digestion changed at a fundamental level. The anxiety I used to feel around food disappeared. My stomach became a place of quiet, not a battleground. This is not about religion. It is about physiology. Your gut cannot digest in a state of threat. Sit down. Put your phone away. Take a breath. Receive your food. Your gut will do the rest.